Good.
What's up, Artie?
All right, before we get to any of the other stuff, and there's fucking 5 million things to talk to Artie about, we talked about this the other day on the podcast. Can you explain to me, like, what the direction was from Saget to Rickles in that scene? Because, like, in the context of the movie, it really makes no actual sense. I mean, it's a great scene. It's a great scene.
All right. Well, there was no direction.
Right.
This is what happened. I love Saget, but there was absolutely no way to direct Don Rickles. We made the mistake while the writers, Frankie and Sebastiano, who I wrote Beer League with, Frankie's fucking genius, and Norm and this other amazing guy, Fred Wolf, who wrote it, and I tried to help out a little bit. We made the mistake of trying to write Don Rickles insults in a script, and Rickles is like a Sinatra guy. He doesn't memorize the script. He just goes. So me and Norm looked fucking ridiculous in those movies. Employee outfits. I look like an enormous ventriloquist dummy in the bow tie. So we're like, let's let Don Rickles be Don Rickles. So Saget and the powers that be said to Don, look, I'll just roll the cameras. Just look at Norm and Artie and insult them. Okay, so now you got to remember this is my first big movie. Right. It's my first big scene in a big movie, and it's the first thing I'm doing. This is the first shot of the day on my first day of shooting. If you're gonna get fired from a big movie, it's gonna be that first week.
So this is the first scene of any movie, essentially big movie you've ever done. Is this scene?
Ever. I've been on Mad TV for 2 years, but I had not done a movie yet. This is the first day.
Yeah.
I'm with Don Rickles, and he's going to insult me. Now, I don't know what he's going to say, so the cameras are rolling. MGM executives are there. The producer, Bobby Simon, big deal. He produced all Sandler's movies. So Rickles just comes up to me with the camera rolling and looks at me and goes, "Look at you, you baby gorilla." And then I just lost it. I lost it 20 straight times. I said, I'm not going to. So we had to do it in pieces. I finally got through that. And then he starts talking to my stomach. He goes, "Have a fun time in there, ice cream." And then I lost it again. So we somehow got through that. Then he has to insult Norm. Right. So in the movie, Norm's name is Mitch.
Right.
He goes up. Now, this actually got cut out because they couldn't use it. But he goes up to Norm in the movie and goes, "How did you get a movie, Norm?" And they go, "Cut."
That doesn't make a lot of sense.
You can't insult him as Norm Macdonald. It won't work in the movie.
That doesn't make any sense.
And then the next thing he says, with the cameras rolling, is, "Who wrote this script? It's terrible." Cut. You can't insult the script. So it took 20 hours, but it was a blast.
What are you laughing at? Because I called your friend a fat pig?
Oh, my God. That face that Rickles makes.
It's so great.
That looks like sarcastic.
They're down to 5 flips.
Because I called your friend a fat pig. And then he does racial shit that would be cut out of every movie now.
Right.
Every movie. He said, like, you're gonna be taking tickets in Kuwait with everybody sucking sands. Unbelievable.
What's amazing is, like, we talk about this stuff here all the time, but the original Bad News Bears, or even Animal House, or All in the Family. Pick it. It's strange, like, and I understand why, but everything has gone backwards, and everything is less funny than it was 40. Like, as there's been progress in the world, comedy, especially in movies and TV, have gone so far backward. It's unbelievable.
It's astonishing how people don't understand stuff is a joke. Eddie Murphy told Barbara Walters in an interview in 1986, and he said it the best. And to me, Eddie Murphy might be the most talented motherfucker who's ever lived. He said, she said to him, "Is anything offensive?" He goes, "If something's funny, it's not offensive. If you're laughing at something, whatever, even if it's a joke on you, if you're laughing at it, intrinsically, it can't be offensive because you find it funny. So if you're at least trying to be funny, you should get a break going, look, I'm trying to be funny, bro. It's a joke. I'm not trying to be hateful. I'm not, comedians aren't senators and congressmen making policy. We're making jokes. We're kidding around. Now, the biggest thing you could do wrong is not be funny, but as long as you're trying to be funny, and you said it right, the original Bad News Bears, I'll do you guys a favor by not actually quoting the movie.
The famous Tanner Boyle speech,
Okay, right, exactly. He says the N-word. He's a blonde-haired,
8-year-old,
kid.
Right.
Blonde-haired, blue-eyed, 11-year-old kid, whatever he is in the fucking movie.
Right.
He says
We lose him?
Times in that
There he is.
and it's hilarious because what kids don't understand now, younger people don't understand in the politically correct media, and thank God you guys do. You know, I saw Portnoy on with Tucker Carlson the other night, and I could not agree with him more about the political process nowadays. But with comedy, what people are not listening to is context.
Right.
In what context are you using the words? They're making a point about society. The Bad News Bears is an amazing satirical film.
Incredible.
Not only is it funny, it shows the mania of these people around Little Leagues back then. I mean, how crazy the parents were and how nuts it was, and how Walter Matthau was a guy who would tolerate anything from these kids, even that offensive.
Well,
that's the context of it. All people would hear nowadays, all a critic of that film would hear nowadays, is the N-word. They wouldn't hear the context of it at all, and that's ridiculous.
Yeah, you know what the other big moment, I don't want to do 20 minutes in the Bad News Bears. You know the big moment would be that people get all pissed off about today is Vic Morrow slapping his kid on the mound, too. Everyone would fuck. People would fucking...
That is the movie, though.
Right.
That is the movie. The movie is about parents who are
crazy
assholes like that.
Right. And we know them. We grew up with parents like, I mean, that's what Little League was like when you were, I mean, I'm not saying it was better, but that's the way the world was.
Artie,
my father, who I loved to death, I struck out in 1977. I was 10 years old. My father was driving me home in his van. He had sheetrock dust from working all over his arm. My father, who I loved, he saw me strike out when I was 10. He said, "Art, you're swinging like a cunt." That's what he said.
Artie,
I mean, look, I turned out a hopeless drug addict, but I'm kind of successful too. I don't know. Guys, it's good to point that out. Well, in a family, no one would get. I mean,
God.
that's just they're goofing on him. Now, there's crazy people who agree with Archie Bunker and take him seriously, but you know, it is the other thing. They expect you to cater to stupid people. True. I refuse to do that.
Well, every episode of All in the Family ended with Archie being the moron. Like it's like Cartman in South Park. Like at the end of every episode, they're wrong. Absolutely. Like that's the whole that's what Norman Lear was saying.
Exactly. But in some movies, listen, back in the 70s, the heroes were insanely offensive. But it's like, again, they're characters in films. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Do you get kind of a pass? Because I've seen you to this day. I saw you on a podcast the other night, Legion of Skanks, where you were making jokes that an SNL cast member would be publicly hanged for. Do you get kind of a pass because of like the audience you have and that you were on Stern and all that?
I think so. I mean, listen, I'm considered an OG at this point. I think, I mean, listen, the only mainstream success I ever had, I mean, I was on Mad TV, which was, always second to SNL, but it stayed on for 14 years. But I think we got away with a lot more stuff, and I'd always rather that. The only mainstream success I ever had was standing next to a guy like Howard Stern. I was next to him. But my own shows and stuff, my podcast, I've never been, some mainstream huge hit, but I'm fine with that. I'd rather be uncensored and have my core audience. And, guys like you who I respect, liking what I do, than ever trying to sell out because I couldn't be any other way. I don't like, you know what I said? I said that this is true. I called an Asian midget at a show Peter Chinklage. And,
Jesus
and
Christ.
This poor guy Shane, I would defend.
Oh, unbelievable, right?
Lorne Michaels, back in the 70s, was this cool rock star type guy.
Right.
Who was the bastion, the poster boy for edgy comedy. And now he's firing this kid for making some joke. It's so ridiculous. It's
to me, it's like, the death of SNL was when Kate McKinnon dressed up like Hillary Clinton and sang Hallelujah, irony free, the fucking most embarrassing moment of all time. But when Lorne Michaels, you're right, a guy who was, when he started, was like almost a hippie, and you remember the prior Chevy Chase scenes and all that stuff.
Of course.
And now he's firing Shane Gillis because of thoughts, because of jokes. Like that is, that's fucking wild.
My first thought was that prior Chevy Chase sketch. And I'm so glad you brought that up. Again, Chevy Chase says the N-word in it. And that's the biggest laugh. And Richard Pryor, who, again, guys, you're so right on the money with all this. Kate McKinnon is an insanely talented human being, but the show has become so political. He's just a shill for a certain group of people. It shouldn't be that way. Like, in the beginning of my stand-up act, the last couple of years, I goof on Trump, I goof on Hillary Clinton. I go, I'm going to get politics out of the way. I'm going to say a joke about both, then we're going to move on because I don't want to deal with the bullshit. If anybody's offended, leave now. I'll pay your bill.
Right.
Get out. Because I don't want to deal with the moans. 25-year-old men look at the women they're with and see if it's okay to laugh at a joke nowadays.
Right.
I mean, stuff has fucking changed, bro.
So I saw,
yeah.
No,
They
I'm
moan.
yeah. So I saw your video you did, or when you first got out, whatever, a couple weeks ago. I was so happy. You look great. You sounded clear-eyed. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
you're feeling good.
I mean, listen, I feel better than I used to look, which ain't hard to do.
Right.
I still got this nose that's, every time I look in a mirror, it's the evidence of 30 years of absolute madness. I might keep it there for young kids to look at and go, don't do this. I look like a boxer. I never got in the ring once.
Right.
But I tell you, I feel like I'm a kid. I get urine tested 5 times a week for probation. If I fail, I go to jail. So it's a matter of public record. I am clean and sober 8 months, and I haven't been sober for 8 months since I was 8 months old. And I feel like I'm 19 again. I feel amazing.
Was the nose actually from snorting glass? Like, I heard you say glass, and the first time I thought it was crystal meth, but was it actual glass that you snorted?
Yeah, no, listen, man. I snorted meth before, but I actually, the only 2 drugs I ever shot, I don't think I ever publicly said this. The only 2 drugs I ever shot intravenously, the 2 times, was both meth, and both hookers did it both times. These hookers could have been nurses. I don't know how they found a vein in my face. The nose is a combination of 3 things: 30 years of ripping and running, 30 years of drug use, snorting everything on the planet. The other one was I got punched in the face by a guy collecting for a bookie. I owed a bookie 62 G's, and the guy collected. Thought I was a billionaire, and he had a big idea of kidnapping me, and he knocked me out. I was going to my Range Rover. I collected for the book, he knocked me out for like 10 minutes. I woke up 10 minutes later, like in a time machine in his van.
Jesus.
And I somehow got out of that. But the other thing is, I was with this broad in St. Louis in a beautiful hotel a couple years back, and she was cutting up breaking up oxycodone pills. And she used a glass salt shaker from room service while I was in the shower, and she made it so fine, like she could work for a sugar refinery or something. And I got called down, cut up these lines. There was glass in the lines of powder, and I snorted it. It sounded like a zipper.
Oof.
And I survived hell, bro. Hell.
Do you think stand-up is bad for you at all? Like the lifestyle and all that?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Thank you.
I mean, I struggle with that all the time. I said this in group therapy while I was in rehab a lot. I said, listen, guys, my biggest struggle right now is going back to my life because I cannot. I've lost 3 fiancés because of drugs, and I say this all the time. Drugs saved me a lot of money. The divorces would have been way more expensive than 30 years of blow. I'll tell you that. But I have to. My last fiance, Adrian, was the love of my life. She was the love of my life. I love her dearly, and I lost her. She's married to some jerk off at a yacht right now, and I lost her. I lost her because of drugs. And she said some real deep shit to me. And the one thing she said to me goes, Artie, you love your crazy life with comedy and this drug running. You love that crazy life more than any woman you could ever love. And I like to think she's wrong, but she's brilliant in that because she's right in some ways. And I said, how am I going to go back into my life that I love and stay clean? Because it lends itself to this crazy drug life too. And so far, so good. But I have always walked the edge. I have to do stand up. My buddy David Tell, one of my maybe my best friends in the world. I said to him once, I said, Dave, let's get away for like 2 weeks. Let's rent a house in California and just get a couple of broads or whatever. Just get away from life for a while. And he said it has to be a town with a stand up club because I can't not do stand up. And I'm not that crazy with it because he's a real artist. But I need to do it. It's pathetic. It's almost like I need that affection from people. So it's an edge, but it's one I'm going to have to take because I can't do anything else.
How'd you, and I don't know this, but did you manage to keep your money all these years?
Okay. I'll give you the numbers. I was on welfare when I was 21 years old.
Right.
Okay. Well, I was, by the time I was 28, I was a millionaire. At one point, God bless you, Howard Stern, I was worth $14 million.
Okay.
I had a net worth of $14 million, which means I made $28 million. the government, the agents, they take straight up there.
Right.
So I had $14 million. I now have about $2. I and that's all in real estate. I went through about $12 million.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but listen, I'm doing better than some, not as good as others.
Oh, that's all right.
I'm alive, you know.
Do you what's going on? We saw something on social media about you going back on Stern. Is there anything to that or no?
Well, what it is what I said on stage was me and Howard are being basically what I meant was me and Howard are being civil to each other in the press, which wasn't the case for a while. And when I was still doing dope and I left the show, I said a lot of angry things on social media and in the press, just because I was bitter. But the point I want to make about Howard Stern is I loved him so much. He gave me the greatest job ever. And when he promoted his book, I was in a halfway house when his book came out in May. I was pumping gas at an Exxon station as part of the program.
Right, I saw the videos.
I'm reading this book, and I'm reading like interviews I did with the president of the United States. And some guy pulls up and goes, "Hey Max, fill it up with regular." But he was so nice to me in those interviews, and I detected some guilt that he had over what happened. He should feel no guilt. All Howard did was give me the best job a comedian's ever had, and made me a multimillionaire, and also tried to get me help. That's what the fans don't know. On the air, you know, it was a comedy show.
It was a bit, right?
So
yeah.
Again, talking about political incorrect, that show, especially when I was on it, we did anything went. It was so much fun, but we had to get laughs. Off the air, Howard put me in rehab 3 separate times, maybe 4. He told me, go get better. You can have your job. Take a year. Go to rehab. You'll come back. You have your job. What else do you want a boss to say? So I'm nice to him right now in the press. He's nice to me. I'm going to call him when I get the guts up to do it and hopefully have dinner with him. But we're being nice to each other is the point. You know, I'd love to go back on there one day.
It'd be great. But I get, like, so my situation is different than yours. I was on EEI for a while. The show did great, really successful, #1.
Yeah.
And then I got in some trouble. I said some shit they didn't like, and I left. and then a lot of the guys that I was with on my old show were still there, and I'm not on the air, and you get so irrationally angry at those people. Yeah. It's not their fault, but you have to put your anger. You got to put your anger somewhere. So I mean, I get it. Like, especially if you're fucked up on top of it. Like, you know, what are you gonna do? Like, that's to me perfectly natural.
Anger and cocaine is a bad combination.
that's not good.
It just fuels it. Drugs always fuel whatever. It always amplified whatever movement. Man, I get mad. If I was happy, I get happy. If I was mad, I get mad. And a lot of times it's over chicks, which I'd relapse. But in the beginning, I would try listening to that show, and I would get, like, it's funny. About 2 years after I left the show, I was doing stand-up on a road. The guy came to pick me up. I think it was in Seattle. And again, the Stern Show was on in every city. We were #1 everywhere. So I'm in Seattle in a car, and the guy's got the show on, and he recognized me. He goes, "Oh, do you mind? I have the show on." And I hear the show, and he goes, "Hey, do me a favor. Why don't you be Artie on the show, but in the back of my car? You know, like, comment on what's going on."
Jesus Christ.
I said, that would be kind of fun. So I sat there, we parked, and everything that was going on, Richard Christie's guinea pig had just died. And I was goofing on Richard with no one there, just me and him in the car. I was goofing on Richard like I would on the show, and I had the guy laughing. That was a nice time. It
was a weird thing, though, because, I mean, we've seen, and you and I talked about 3 or 4 years ago, I mean, we have seen Stern adjust to a more politically correct time. Right. Though. I mean, that's indisputable. I mean, he's friends with people he wouldn't have been friends with. So I always wonder when I hear that, and he's hanging out with Orlando Bloom or something, I always wonder, gee, what is Artie thinking? And again, I'm glad I hope you and Stern get along, and that's great. He's great too. Yeah, but I always wonder what you think when you hear that.
Well, listen, I got to say, that's another great question. You got to respect Howard for this, man. I think one of the reasons we got along, I think people enjoyed Howard and I together, was we sat 2 feet from each other for 10 years. He's the most disciplined human being ever. I'm the most undisciplined.
True.
It was like, the odd couple. But Howard, on top of being a comedic genius, is also a marketing genius. He knows which way pop culture is swaying, bro. And he goes that way. And that's why he's also a trillionaire and successful. He can be funny in any context. My thing was like, I don't know how he gets away with it. It's like he was at Jennifer Aniston's wedding. The shit we used to say about Jennifer Aniston.
Crazy.
Oh,
I know.
my God. oh my God, even me and Freddie Norris would lean back and go, whoa, this is crazy what he's saying. Like we would goof on everybody. And then he's at our wedding. You know, God bless him. He gets it off, man. He's a rock star. But there's stuff that I would goof on him about that no one else would, which is, I think, is another reason the fans respected me on some level, even if it wasn't funny. But we had a very famous argument over him calling me bro. And
a Pelican.
Yeah.
Yes.
I called him a Pelican.
You did.
When he brought in a chick who had a fat fetish, and I just wasn't in the mood. He's like, oh, this chick will bang you. She likes fat chicks. I go, what if I brought in a broad with a pelican fetish?
You didn't like
and
that.
He goes, you're saying I look like a pelican? I go, yeah. And when I said that, dude, that's about 6 months before I left the show. I looked at his voice. And I looked at his face. I said, it's over.
Right.
I'm going to get fired.
Were you fucked up? Were you fucked up at that point or no?
I was fucked up the last 5 years every day.
Right. So, I mean, I did the morning show too at 6 a.m. I cannot comprehend that you were. It's like not. It's
crazy.
Amazing. It's incredible to me because I mean, so I did 6 to 10 for whatever 6 years, and you're fucked up all day anyway. Your body's just fucked up.
Yeah. You can't adjust to it. But again, it started with the crazy stand-up schedule. Again, my life became chaos because of cocaine in the 90s. I went to Los Angeles County Jail but I tell you what, when heroin got reintroduced into my life, because I used to take Quaaludes and stuff, but when heroin came in, that changed the game. I was getting up to get on the plane, going down to go to sleep, get up to doing coke to just do the show and stuff like that. And Jimmy Norton, who was on Opie and Anthony at the time, we both worked in the same building at Sirius. And Jimmy, is hilarious. He'd see me in the elevator. He goes, "How are you on heroin? We're getting here at the same time." Again, I really truly loved doing the show. That's the only way I can tell you. I mean, I did. So it was going downhill for a while, but I kept going.
Go ahead, Mike.
Why do you think you always call Fred Norris a genius? Why do you think a guy like that never left? Just because of the money, or is there a reason he never went anywhere and did his own thing?
I think Fred is without question a genius. If you listen, and again, it's part of Howard being touched by the radio gods. It's like Jordan finding Pippen. I mean, to me, I was just like a poor man's Horace Grant. Freddie was the Scottie Pippen. I think Fred loves his work. The picture he paints behind Howard in that show with the sound effects is so amazing. And I just think he's well paid for what he does. I think even Howard would have been probably underpaid at the end of the day. If I was Howard, here's what I think of Fred. If I was Howard and the numbers are correct on the money Howard has, I would go to Freddie the last day of the show and say, "Here's a check for $100 million. Thank you."
Right.
I mean, that's how important he is. I think Fred likes his position in life and on that show, and he's not a pretentious, self-important guy. I don't think he needs to see the Fred Norris show in life. He's not one of those cats. He's happy with his position, and he's great at it.
What is your so? I mean, how much of your stand-up now when you go on the road? How much of it is drawn on what's happened, say, in the last 2 years or something? Say the prison experience.
Well, it's funny. My work together is almost like a business model. I live a screwed up loser nut life, and then I comment on it in books and stand up. My stand up has always been crazy observations, but mostly stories about my life that I punch up with jokes. Right now, 80% of it, I'd say, is a lot of the crazy stuff that's happened. I mean, I was locked up for 8 months and a half, 3 months in a halfway house. That was nuts. 2 months in county jail, in the craziest county jail in the country, and 2 months, 3 months in a rehab. I gotta say, Turning Point Rehab in Patterson the last 3 months before I came out. They saved my life. Great place.
Do you feel now not to get into cliche stuff, but do you feel calm? I mean, do you feel like you've turned some corner that you haven't turned in the last 10 years?
I have, for me, no, I haven't turned a corner like this. But again, what I learned to do is, as an addict, you can't put pressure on yourself. Right. I used to tell people, good guys, I'm going to be good the rest of my life. You can't do that. That one day at a time thing, like you just said, sounds like a cliche, but it really is how you stay good. It's like, I'm not going to guarantee my fans or people in my family or my loved ones, if I ever get another woman like Adrian in my life, who I love so much, or Dana, or, you know, all I'm going to guarantee them is, like right now, guys, I can guarantee you I'm probably not going to get high between now and the end of this phone call.
Good, that's great. Good. I mean, yeah.
And
Don't do that.
It's one day at a time. So if I can get through today, tomorrow starts, and it's another day, and hopefully you put together a good life, you know.
We had Dice on a couple weeks ago, and I remember you and Dice had like a classic fight on Stern.
Yeah,
but I feel like that happens all the time. Like, what's your relationship with him? Like, is he all right?
I love Dice.
Yeah.
Dice and me have become amazing friends. Amazing friends. Dice is so good to me. A great comic named Jimmy Florentine got married a few years ago, and Dice was at the wedding, and I was in the middle of my craziness. I had just gotten arrested again, and Dice kind of goes, "Sit down, jerk off. I'm going to talk to you like Andrew, not like Dice." And I said, "Look, Andrew sounds a lot like Dice." He goes, "I'm going to give you life advice," and he sat down, and so I mean, like he was almost crying. The guy's a good man. I like Dice a lot. He's a good friend.
Yeah, it's sad to see another comedian I love and I hate to see him leave the Stern world. And I know you've been on with him a bunch, and it was my favorite when you guys would do the news is Gilbert.
Oh,
like
yeah.
I mean, maybe the funniest fucking guy who ever lived.
Yeah, Gilbert is fearless.
He is.
Gilbert is the most fearless. I mean, Gilbert had major endorsement deals,
right,
with major corporations, and he's saying the most offensive shit on the planet. He just doesn't care. He's a rock star when it comes to that. You know, it's funny. I say to Gilbert is married to the sweetest, cutest blonde, Dara, you've ever seen. He has two of the most adorable kids.
I saw the documentary. Yeah.
Yeah, me and Attell and some other guys, we all did the documentary about Gilbert, and we can't believe. Like, here's what I say about Gilbert: if it was 1991 and you're sitting there watching the movie Aladdin, okay, and someone comes from the future, 2019, and says, "You see the voices in this film. One of these guys is going to hang himself with a woman's garment, and it's not the parrot." One of these guys is going to kill themselves, and it's not the parrot. One of these guys is going to have a wonderful family life.
True.
And it's not the fucking parrot. it's the other guy. So Rob Williams, another genius who was so depressed. Comedy is a lot of darkness, but Gilbert, man. I mean, Gilbert. Listen, I am a guy from North Jersey, an Italian kid who grew up with a blue collar dad from North Jersey. I was a longshoreman. I was a cab driver. I was a road comedian and the co-host of the Howard Stern show. I was offended by shit Gilbert.
Well, I mean, what did he lose that endorsement over the
Affleck? It was a Japanese tweet.
Wasn't the aristocrats thing? It was the
Yeah.
I'm going to ruin the joke. I forget what the joke was, but he tweeted something like after the tsunami in Asia.
Oh, right.
Like, yeah, something like Chinese people saw the whole life going past them, and it was like, there's a chair, I don't know what it was.
Yeah, right.
it was something, but he also added an insane racial part of it too, and got fired. Now listen, the Twitter thing again. You talk about that.
Oh.
I have gotten. I remember one time, Twitter. I would get my hand slapped, and for a comedian, this is where I live for. I love being the outlaw. But like I've done stuff on Twitter. One time I printed that I was dating this Jewish girl. She had a 100-year-old great uncle. He was a Holocaust survivor. He was also like the most requested plumber in the history of New Jersey. So I tweeted out that he was the only man ever to make both Schindler's and Angie's List.
Oh, that's funny. I mean, but here's the thing though, right? Like, I mean, who's actually offended by that? Like, I know people claim to be, but I mean, who's really offended by that?
Exactly. Well, we'll go back to the Eddie Murphy thing. You guys just laugh. I do that joke in my act. The show, again, you know what makes me really, like, there's a show now called Mixed-ish, based on Blackish, where it's like a mix, you know, and again, it might be good, but I can't.
No chance. But yeah.
I tweeted out, based on the success of Mixed-ish, I'm going to do a show about biracial kids who were brain dead called Mixed Vegetables.
Oh, Jesus.
And people hear that and they go, you know, again, it's like they go, my son is brain dead. I'm like, well, don't tell him about the joke. He's not going to know it.
But I would think for you, like, I know Mike had just asked you about, is it dangerous to get back into stand-up? But I got to think, like, if you're with somebody and you're on the road and you're having dinner and you're breaking balls, that must be in some ways, too, like insanely therapeutic at the same, you know, I mean, I don't know, just have somebody who understands, like, because, I mean, no matter what your job is, and your job is so different. If you're talking to somebody who, you're in some meeting, who the fuck's going to understand what you're talking about?
Exactly. Well, again, it's therapeutic just to talk to guys like you who are in the media with sense of humor.
Right.
You're smart you're smart and you got a sense of humor. That's all it is a sense of humor. That's it. That's all it is. It's just, if someone is a comedian, I don't, comics, now Jerry Seinfeld said this too, about comedians. But again, we all take the mainstream success of it.
Oop.
You should always be on the outside looking in. You should always be commenting on something.
Right.
Like Howard Stern made a lot of money from being an outsider. He was never at Jennifer Aniston's wedding. He was always goofing on it.
Right.
A comedian should never be at the Oscars making some sentimental speech. We should be goofing on it. That's what a comedian is. Now, I am unpopular enough to where I'll always have that position. But I'm fine with it. I love being a bit of an outlaw, and, in a real way too. Clearly, because I've been to jail. But a comic should always be comic. And when you're out to dinner with other comics, or talking to guys like you, where there really is. Look, the Comedy Cellar where I perform a lot. That even the table where the comics hang out before we go on stage. We talked. We showed it in Crashing a little bit. The HBO show.
Yeah, Pete Holmes. Right. Yeah.
So the comics table at the Comedy Cellar used to be no holds barred. It just was the black comics, the white comics, the Irish guys, Italian, whatever, Hispanic. We all hung out together, and it was just a free fest of goofing on each other. Even that table is politically correct. I mean, when the older guys go there, and there's a lot of insanely talented younger comedians, but it's like they roll their eyes over stuff. It's like, guys, you gotta calm down. You gotta not be so sensitive. You're fucking comedians.
Right. Right.
Look at Don Rickles. He was our hero. But Don Rickles, if you just seen his shit on paper, people would be disgusted with him. What's
crazy about Rickles is he had no act. He had no he would go on there and he would just go on and find. Now he had some lines he would always use, but he had 10 or 12 people in the audience he would shit on. Like if you watched him on Letterman or Leno or Carson, a lot of his stuff would miss, but he'd make fun of himself. Like it wasn't, he didn't
all attitude,
right?
All attitude,
yeah.
And that's a truly funny person. Like Rickles didn't really have set up punchline; he had attitude,
right?
And that's what a real funny person is. Someone who at a roast doesn't need jokes; he's just gonna fucking rail on you.
Yeah, like so much of what Eddie Murphy did was that attitude. Like obviously he was funny, but we played some of his sound the other day to show how times have changed. Because I think I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this. I wouldn't be surprised at all. He's hosting SNL again at the end of December.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Well, get ready because I'm waiting for that backlash for his old anti-gay, all that act. I'm telling you, there's going to be this fucking left, crazy liberal backlash on this, and they're going to try and get him not host that. That's my prediction.
Listen, and I hope he has the decency to tell them all to go fuck themselves.
Right,
and I hope Warren does too.
Well, that's the thing.
How is Warren Michaels? Warren just go again. Warren is brilliant. He's an amazing marketer. He's going to fire this kid for saying chink, and then Eddie Murphy, because Eddie Murphy's going to be the biggest ratings ever on that show. He's going to have him on. Eddie Murphy didn't say the word faggot. He had a bit called it.
Right. Two of them.
Right.
On his first album, Comedian, it's still framed at the comic strip in New York City. It's a bit called faggot. It says number one, and it's and Eddie Murphy is so talented that he's one of those guys who could tell you he's going to be funny. He goes, "I'm about to be funny, then I'm going to stop."
Right.
And he's going to make you laugh, and then he's like, "Okay, that's enough. I gave you enough." And he's one of the biggest stars of all time. He's got $1 trillion. I hope he, look, he's got kids, and these people, man, this liberal extreme left, and there's assholes on both sides.
Obviously, of course.
On both sides.
Yeah.
But they're evil motherfuckers, man. I mean, and Eddie Murphy's got kids. He might be able to take it himself. I'm sure he's tough enough to take it himself, the criticism. But you got a family and shit. They get downright threatening about stuff, like the mafia. It's crazy. I hope he stands his ground because you're 100% right. He was supposed to. Okay, here's Hollywood. Here's the hypocrisy of Hollywood. about 5 years ago, he was going to host the Oscars, Eddie Murphy. And I thought exactly what you just said. Brett Ratner was going to produce it. And they fired Brett
that's
Ratner.
the Ratner thing. Right, yeah.
Yeah. Brett Ratner literally said a line that I had in Dirty Work, not in Dirty Work, in Beer League. I said practice is for fags. And he said rehearsal is for fags. In like Australia, it rolled out of his mouth like just like a goofy thing a heterosexual man says with no hatred at all. They fired him. Eddie Murphy, in a very wise move, said, I quit. I'm not doing it. So he crystallized it because he saw what they did to Brett Ratner. Brett Ratner gets fired from hosting the Oscars for just off out of the side of his mouth a tongue-in-cheek comment he made in Australia doing press. Roman Polanski raped a 13-year-old girl, gave her Quaaludes in a jacuzzi at Jack Nicholson's house.
And by the way, raped her about the most brutal way possible too.
Raped her.
Right.
Goes to France. France doesn't send him back. Since then, he's won an Oscar.
Well, not only did he won the Oscar for directing, he got a standing ovation.
The piano.
Right. Yeah, he got a standing ovation.
Go to the awards. He couldn't go to the awards.
He was going to get arrested. Right.
Yeah. For rape. So what is the message they're giving? What are I forget the comic's name, but I haven't seen him since back when I was struggling as a comic in the early 90s. I did work at the comic shop all the time. This sums up political correctness perfectly. I forget the guy's name. I wish I could give him a comment on the joke, but he did a joke about liberals had just come out or whatever. I don't know if liberals, but people were mad that the makeup company Revlon was testing makeup on rats. Okay.
Yeah,
right. People are mad at Revlon for putting makeup on rats. They're not mad at Decon. There was a company called Decon that was rat extermination. He goes, they're not mad at Decon for actually killing rats. So what's the politically correct message? You can kill a rat, you just can't doll it up a little.
I had a question.
I mean, that's the hypocrisy of it. That's the hypocrisy.
Who is the biggest celebrity asshole you've ever dealt with, whether it's at Stern or on your own or whatever? Has there been somebody you're just like, this guy or girl is just a fucking asshole?
3 words: Brian Austin Green.
Really?
When I was,
I guess he's a celebrity. All right, I'll allow that.
Well, he was. I was just about to say, does that qualify?
Yeah, we'll allow it.
Listen, he was fucking Megan Fox.
That's true. That's true.
He wins, but so he was a hip hop star after Melrose Place. So back in the mid '90s, when it was a big deal, he hosted Saturday Night Live, and we did a sketch. He hosted Mad TV when I was okay. He hosted Mad TV. So we did a sketch that was kind of goofing on him to his face, but he didn't really realize it. It was about white rappers.
Right. He's so dumb.
Goes by the name Bag. Brian Austin Green. And that's his rap name.
Oh,
Bag.
good. Yeah.
And I actually tweeted something to where I said he's got a brother who's also a rapper with a less cool nickname.
Yes.
Frank Austin.
Yes, I saw that one coming. Yeah. Jesus.
He kept screwing up the sketch. He couldn't remember the line, and he turned into maybe the biggest asshole ever. Like, he was blaming other people in the sketch for it, and just a prick. Tom Cruise was a bit of an asshole to me on the set of Jerry Maguire.
Oh, that's right. You got cut from Jerry Maguire, right?
I got cut out of the movie because he was yelling at me in front of the crew, and it was my first. It was before Dirty Work, actually. But I didn't have a big part, and that's how I knew with Dirty Work you can get cut out. But listen, Tom Cruise on my jersey, I wasn't that far removed from being like a longshoreman in Jersey, right. And Tom Cruise is 4'11". I wanted to beat the shit out.
Who are you supposed to play? Are you supposed to be like one of the agents, or?
I played a guy. If you remember the movie, Kelly Preston or him get into a big fight at the NFL draft.
Yeah, at the thing. Yeah.
And she punches him in the face, and I played an annoying guy.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I remember you talking about this. Yeah.
Yeah, I come up and I say I had like 2 paragraphs of shit, and he gives me like a fuck off look, and I leave. He yelled at me. And Cameron Crowe, the director, was a great guy. Shows you how my life goes. He goes, just do it the way he wants you to do it. And I adjusted and I did it. But the whole crew was like, realized, look, Tom Cruise is yelling at this idiot. I get arrested in the meantime. I told everybody in my life I'm going to be in Jerry Maguire. I get arrested. I go to Los Angeles County Jail. At 3 o'clock in the morning, the guards do me a favor. They let me check my answering machine. I'm in LA County Jail. I owed a bookie in Staten Island $30,000 for the first Tyson Holyfield fight. So I was scared. I had to check my answering machine. So I checked my answering machine. I'm in a jumpsuit in LA County Jail. I'm probably going to get fired from Mad TV. My life is over. But I got Jerry Maguire coming out 2 weeks later. First voicemail that I checked while I got Bugs and Crips waiting in line to check the phone too. In a jumpsuit in jail. First voicemail is from Cameron Crowe going, I got cut out of the movie. I said, this is a bad week. But it's a microcosm of my life.
Wasn't Lorne Michaels an asshole to you too? Speaking of him, didn't he bring you in just to tell you didn't get SNL or something like that?
I had the Lorne Michaels story was crazy. When I had done Mad TV for a couple of years. I did Dirty Work, and I was shooting a movie with David Spade. And while I'm shooting the movie with Spade in like Manhattan Beach, California, I get a urgent call from my agent. I go, Lorne Michaels wants to meet you. He's in LA at his office in Paramount. He goes, ask Spade if you can leave the movie early because he's probably going to offer you SNL. And at the time, I was like, well, do we even want to do that? It's going to be a pay cut. I was making a lot of money. And I had done 2 years on Mad TV. It was weird he wanted to meet me, but it's Lorne Michaels. So you give him the respect. I got there. Spade gave me some time off. I left the movie set early. I was wearing a wig. I had to rip it off my head. And I get to Paramount on time. Lorne makes me wait for an hour, just to get me in the room to say, he goes to me, I saw your reel tape. I had a reel tape with all the sketches I did at Mad TV. He goes, you're quite good. How come we didn't see you for Saturday Night Live? I'm like, I don't fucking know. You tell me. I don't know. I got offered a TV show and I took it. What do you want me to tell you? So he goes, it's your dream to do SNL, right? He said that to me. And it's just me and him in a big office. And I've never been good at kissing ass. My agent to this day said to me, Art, all you had to do was like kiss his feet. He would have given you the part. I can't do that. I don't have it in me. So I said to him, well, anybody my age, Lorne, would probably say they'd want to hear Don Pardo say their name. I was 30 years old at the time. And he goes, well, that's not possible.
So what was the fucking point? Was he just fucking with you?
I told Spade and I told Norm Macdonald the story. He goes, and Norm goes, he was just fucking with you. I'm like, he goes, but dude, he goes, you should feel a lot of respect that Lorne Michaels took time out of his day to fuck with you. I mean, he took time out of his day. You know?
That was bizarre.
Very bizarre.
And obviously you worked with Norm a couple of times. Fucking
genius.
Just the greatest. The greatest.
Yeah. Norm Macdonald was one of the funniest human beings ever. And I was with Norm every day for 4 years, and we were both degenerate gamblers. I opened for him on the road. We shot a movie together. I did a sitcom with him for 2 years. I never had more fun in my life. We used to do things called a lightning bet that my bookie took. And, okay, I'll try to explain a lightning bet to you because it's like the heroin of gambling. Say you got an under-over in a basketball game, and it's 180 points, right?
Right.
Here's what a lightning bet is. If you lightning bet, and we used to bet $1,000 a point. If you lightning bet $1,000 a point, once you hit 180, every point in a basketball game that goes over 180, you win $1,000. So every basket, you win $2,000.
Right.
If you hit the 180. So every basket's $2,000. Every 3-pointer's $3,000. So if you hit the number, you're winning money every 5 seconds on a level of so you're shaking. Okay. If you go under, you lose $1,100 for every point because you lose the vig too.
Jesus.
So it's $1,100 every. Okay, so I'm going to give you what happened. I was on the road with Norm, 1998 in June, and we lightning bet the over 1,000 a point in the lowest scoring NBA Finals game of all time.
That Jazz Bulls game. Yeah.
The Bulls, right. Utah Jazz.
Right, that's right.
The Jazz look. Karl Malone and John Stockton look like two Jewish guys playing. the Bulls just put the clamps on them.
That's
they scored,
right.
I think, 45 points.
That's right.
Norm and I, now before I go on stage to do stand-up, I owe a bookie $80,000. Okay? I'm on stage in St. Louis going, I couldn't even remember my act. I'm bombing because I owe a guy.
You're bombing because of Greg Ostertag's inability to hit a jump hook.
Exactly.
It's almost hard to believe, Artie, you went from 14 million to 2 million with this strategy.
Yeah. I used to call him Greg Ostertag.
You're not allowed to say that.
Yeah, let me tell you. But it was so much fun. Again, the kind of funny that Norm Macdonald is. The movie Dirty Work I did with him, right? The hometown critic, my hometown paper said about my performance in Dirty Work, Artie Lange has all the charm of a date rapist. Okay? That's what he said. So here's how Norm cheered me up. He goes, hey, man, that's fucking great. A date rapist has to have way more charm than a regular rapist.
That's true. He gets a
He's
date.
right.
That's a good point. Yeah,
That's what it's like hanging out.
I'm going to defend. We started here. We can finish it because I'm sure you got shit to do. But I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I fucking love Dirty Work. I think it's funny as hell. I mean, I know it's kind of whatever, but I mean, fucking Jack Warden's in it too, which is wild.
Jack Warden plays my dad. That's like
Jack
that.
Warden. 12 Angry Men.
Right there.
All the President's Men. The Verdict. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, he worked with Dustin Hoffman and me.
Yeah, Robert Redford and you. Yes.
Yeah, but no. Thank you for saying that because I have a big part, co-lead or lead in two movies, Beer League and Dirty Work, and they were both called by a bunch of websites cult classics. Right
Oh, that's
now.
true. I'd agree.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
People love Dirty Work. People love Dirty Work, and I'm proud to be in it.
Lost and Found is the girl from Braveheart's in that, right?
Let me tell you something. Spade is a gangster, man. He put Sophie Marceau in it. I used to get makeup next to Sophie Marceau in that movie.
Yeah.
We looked like we weren't in the same species. She's the most beautiful chick I ever met in my life. And when I got to know Spade pretty well and became friendly with Spade, he's another hilarious. Spade is just so fucking funny. But in the movie, Spade plays a guy. He's not even a rich, famous comedian. He's a guy who works at a restaurant who's broke.
Right.
And he fucks Sophie Marceau at the end of the movie. I'm like, Spade, this is not a comedy. It's science fiction. But listen, I got to work with some of the funniest people ever. I'm very grateful for it. Very grateful.
Well, we're glad that you're doing well, and we hope to talk to you soon. And we'll promote your. I know you're around here coming up soon. Do we have the dates from Steve? Or
yeah, October 18th and 19th. He's going to be at the Stress Factory in Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Excellent.
And then he's coming to Providence, Rhode Island, November 14th and 15th.
Oh, I'm going to that.
To the Comedy Connection.
All right, I'm going to one of those shows for
you can
sure.
Check out all his times. Website's artiequitter.com.
Comedy Connection's awesome.
Yeah, please come by, guys, as my guest. Let's hang out. You guys are very nice to me. I appreciate it.
Oh, we love you. We love you. You're the greatest.
And when's your podcast starting up, Artie? I saw you tweet.
Oh, yeah.
I got a podcast called Artie Lange Halfway House. Going to start in about 4 weeks. Early November. Good. Excellent.
Awesome.
All right. Well, yeah, so hopefully we'll get you on soon again, and we'll talk to you, and we'll see you in Providence. Awesome. Thanks.